Thank you, Justine, for your prayer. And thank you all of you for coming to listen today. So, one of the things that Adonia and I really love about this job is that we get to talk with people a lot and share with people a lot about our vision for the community and for the future of our movement. And sometimes it's a one-on-one, sometimes in a group setting or in a meal. Sometimes it's when I'm at, like for example, when I went down to Texas a few months ago for the meeting of all the states in our district, and I got to share with other pastors what's going on in Colorado and what our vision is for the future. And they were really inspired by that. And I'm going to be going to Las Vegas in April to attend a conference of all the pastors in the country. And so I'm, that's also an opportunity to be able to share, what's going on in Colorado. And I'm excited about that. I don't know how many of you remember, but a few months ago I gave a sermon and I talked about the vision. And I talked about how, for myself, I was thinking about what kind of vision do I have, as a pastor, right? Because I was reading all these books about growing your church, and, well, some of them were more like saving your church. And all of them said, if you want to save your church, or if you want to grow your church, you have to have a vision. You have to have a purpose. Like, not just having church for the sake of having church, or going to Sunday service for the sake of going to Sunday service, but like what as a church, as a community, are you working towards? Like, what are you trying to develop or create or build? And it was saying how one thing that you often see in a struggling church is one thing that you often see in a struggling church is a lack of vision, and like not really sure where we're going or what we're trying to do. Yeah, and that's common sense, right? I mean, it's kind of hard to be excited about something that you don't know what you're doing. And I don't know if you remember, but it was during that sermon that I made a commitment, kind of spontaneously, that I was going to do a 40 days, of prayer, prayer condition for 40 days to pray about, like what is my role as a pastor, and what is the direction and the future of our church, and what kind of vision do I need to have? And it talked about the mission statement at that time, and it was kind of a very, in some ways, a kind of a challenging moment in terms of my, why am I doing what I'm doing, kind of thinking as a pastor. And I know that I talk a lot about vision. I don't know, maybe some of you are tired of it, I don't know. But it's important to me because I think a lot about vision in my own life. And I think a lot about, why do I wake up in the morning? Like, what inspires me to wake up in the morning? Because there are those mornings where I wake up and I'm like, what am I going to do today? For what purpose am I getting out of bed? And is it just to go through the daily rituals and do the things I got to do, take the kids to school, pick them up, do some computer work, make some phone calls, et cetera, et cetera? Because I don't like living that way. I don't think anybody does. But I realize that I think that the way that we live our life and the things that we strive for really has a lot to do with what is my vision, like what is my purpose. And I think that also conversely, if we don't have a vision or we don't have a purpose, then that also affects like what I do in my life, or what are my goals, or like how do I live my daily life. And so when I find myself struggling in my life, which happens fairly often, I go back to why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, what is my purpose? Why am I here? Why am I the pastor? Why am I a pastor? Why did I decide to come here? And why do I continue? Like, why do I still continue to do it? Um, and if I continue to live the way that I've been living, what is going to be the result of that, 1 year, 5 year, 10 years down the line? And when I think about it, does that get me excited about my life? Is that something that inspires me to want to get up in the morning? Or not? And if not, then what can I do about it? And so anyway, I was kind of thinking about it lately, and I was thinking about how, and there seems to be so many times where I don't want to get up in the morning. I don't want to get up and do the things that I need to do. I put them off, and I struggle with doing them, even though I know that they're things that I should, or even things that I want to do. And I was thinking about that a lot this week, and I was thinking a lot about how when we first came here, we did that survey, and we asked you about, how do you feel about our community? How do you feel about the future of our church, et cetera, et cetera? And it was kind of interesting thinking back on some of those responses. There were people who said that, they didn't feel so inspired about the future. Kind of felt like maybe we were going downhill. What's the purpose? And kind of a little bit hopeless. But at the same time, as the months and this past year has gone by, we've also had many people come to us and just share about how they feel hope for the future. They feel like the future is full of new possibilities or new, something to be excited about that maybe wasn't there before. And I don't know, I feel really good about that. I don't feel like I can take. And I think that really deserves talking about a little bit, because for myself, I need to feel excited about what I'm doing. I need to feel excited that the efforts that I'm making, the late nights, sometimes the phone calls coming in at 11 o'clock, midnight, sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning, the long meetings, and sometimes I'll have a conversation with somebody that's so emotionally draining that I won't feel like doing anything else for the rest of the day. And I need to feel like that's worth it. I need to feel like those things, maybe they're a little difficult at times, but the end result is that things are going to be better, not just for me, but for everybody. And the inspiring thing is that we are moving in a positive direction in the community. I don't know how many of you feel it or how many of you see it, but it's very clear to me. It's very apparent to me that we are gaining momentum as a community and that we are coming together under a common purpose, and that we are making the steps forward to achieving those goals and that vision that we are all discovering, I guess you could say. And I want to talk a little bit about that today because it's inspiring to me, and I think that it will be inspiring to you, and we all need to see where we're going as a community. I don't know how many of you know, but Hisako-san and Nobuyuki-san are going to LA in a couple weeks, right? Yes, next week? No, I think 2 weeks, right? Anyway, doesn't matter. They're going soon. And I'm really inspired about them because they, I met Naoko Hiraki in LA, and she's got all these hundreds of spiritual children out there who are, just joined in the last 5-10 years, and even though Hisako-san and Nobuyuki-san, they're a lot older than me and a lot more experienced, and they know a lot more about witnessing than I do, but they are united with me and with us, and in the desire to go and to inherit from what they're doing in LA. And I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate, especially Hisako-san, even though she's so many years my elder and has so much more experience than me, she's always reporting to me or talking to me about what she's doing. And I don't know how many of you can see it, but really Hisako-san has changed a lot in this last year and a half. And I say that not just because I see it, but because other people have told me also that she's really making a lot of effort to, and it hasn't been easy for her, but she's making a lot of effort to kind of do things in a new way. I remember we were talking at one point, and we were talking about how, what was it we were talking about? Hisako-san, do you remember what that was? We had kind of after the conversation, you were a little bit struggling about how to, oh, okay, so at one point we were talking about the value of the different members in our community. Maybe if I move over here, it'll be a little bit better. So we were talking about the value of members in our community, and I was telling Hisako-san, you know what? I value each member in our community, and I don't care if they come to church, and I don't care if they tithe. And which, of course, please don't take that to mean that don't come to church and don't tithe. But what I was telling her was that, to me, the people in our community are members of our community. It has the same value whether they're involved, whether they come to church regularly, whether they're giving financially or whatever. And it was a very sincere conversation, and it was very, because I recognize that sometimes in our church we've given people value based on how much they come to church, or how much they tithe, or how much they're involved in different witnessing activities or different things like that. And I really felt like this was a time that we needed to make start a new chapter in our church, I guess you could say, where, yes, those things are important, but they're not going to change how we relate to one another. They're not going to change the value that we put on one another. And my personal opinion is that when we feel like I'm a valued person, I'm a valued member of the community, regardless of how much I do, that will inspire me to want to do more. That's how I feel. And we'll see if that actually is true. But I think it's true. But anyway, yeah, please have a good experience in LA, Nobuyuki-san and Hisako-san, and please inherit a lot from there. Alice has also really inspired me a lot. I don't know if she's here today, but Alice also is, her and Gary are the eldest couple in our community. Yet Alice is constantly writing me and, Pastor Mike, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And, it just kind of really warms my heart, because here I am, this 31-year-old guy, young pastor, very little experience, yet they are putting themselves in the object position to me, asking me what they should be doing. And it's kind of a humbling experience for me. But it's something that really makes me take my position seriously and makes me want to be a better pastor. So it works both ways. I like that a lot. When we met last week, we had our first meeting to develop our website, our local website. And it's possible that some of you may be thinking, why do we need a local website? And I've talked a little bit about this, but I want to share a little bit more about my vision for the local website, for the side chapel, and for our welcome center. So, we're putting a lot of effort into a welcome center. We're investing a lot of money. Yeah, we're investing a lot of money into that. We're putting a little cafe in there. We're doing lots of renovations in the church. And concurrently, we're developing a website. And I want to share a little bit about that, because over time, originally I was just thinking that we're going to renovate the side chapel and put a welcome center in there. Just a nice room where we can do different events, and it'll be, aesthetically pleasing and enjoyable. Then the idea of a cafe kind of came along, and I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to add one of those in. And then I was thinking, well, during church, instead of people who are guests who just kind of sit in the service, they could go into the side chapel and they could hear like an introduction or something like that, instead of listening through church where they don't know the songs, where they don't know our terminology, they don't know anything about why we're true parents, Jew, Chano Guk, and all these things. And it just kind of got my head thinking that there's so many new things that we could try that we've never tried before. And I really want for our community to do things that no one else has ever tried before. Like, I think it's really cool that we're inviting, that James Powell is coming this week from Ireland. We're flying this guy out from Ireland. Who does that? I mean, we do, but I haven't seen a lot of other people do that kind of a thing. And I think it's really cool. I mean, even we're not 100% sure about what the talks are going to be like and whatnot, but I'm confident that it's going to be an enriching experience. But when we were meeting about the website development, we started coming up with all these ideas about what we could have on a website. And we were talking about how perhaps we could even have a poll on the website. And in the poll, you could ask people, are you searching for truth? Or, what do you think about the Bible? Or, have you ever wondered this question before? And then we started talking about it, and then I started realizing that years ago, I had an inspiration to make a website where people could come and they could, if they're searching for answers, they could kind of be funneled in a certain direction. Like, you'd answer this question and that question, and then be like, well, it looks like you're really interested in the spirit world. Why, you can come, we're going to do this program on such and such. Or it looks like you're really interested in, family relationships, and we have such and such program. And then I was thinking that, if we had something like that, then we could have, that could be coordinated with the programs that we're doing here. And then, like, what if we had a tablet at the front where people come in and they're like interested to learn a little bit of information. They put their email in and they're put on a separate email list than the one where we send out things about, like, many times things that aren't really appropriate for guests. And then you can set it up automatically so that once people are signed up to the email list, then they get an email like 2 days later saying, hey, thanks for signing up. It's all automatic, right? Thanks for signing up. I think you'd be interested in seeing this. And then 2 weeks later, and this is all automatic, they get another email saying, hey, I think you'd be interested in this. And then kind of having a follow-up method for people. And then the side chapel will have a cafe in there, and then that'll be a way that I'm thinking that before church, people can come and can... it'll be a place to socialize because you can buy your nice coffee and lattes and cappuccinos, and it'll be nice quality with good coffee. And I have a lot of ideas and a lot of things that I realize that it need a lot of help, And this is something that. I meant to read the quote at the beginning of the sermon. I totally forgot. I'm sorry about that. But if you could follow along with me here. Everyone must have a clear view of his purpose. You must know what that purpose really means, and you must be able to organize yourself to reach it. Our purpose is to establish the earthly kingdom of God, to carry out the will of God. You must be able to explain what that means. In order to establish the kingdom of God, you must do this and that. You must be headed toward the goal and march forward. You must be able to organize yourself and pave the way. To do that, we need manpower and finances. We have a clear goal ahead of you, but without increasing your own membership, you cannot organize your own system. Yet, in order to be able to go ahead until you attain the goal, you need money. So those three elements are most needed. Then you can do things on behalf of true parents and in place of God. So, some of you have asked me, remember a while back I had this idea to do like an Apple Store thing? You remember that? Yeah, so like, for those of you who don't remember, I was saying that Apple has these really beautiful stores in malls, right? Cutting edge, beautiful, and super crowded, very popular. And you can go there to get free information, you get training, you can buy stuff, obviously. And I had the inspiration that, we should do that. We can have a cutting-edge store location in a mall where people can come and to learn about our faith, Divine Principle. And there'll be videos playing and touchscreen walls and all that stuff. But I did a little research on what it costs to have a... Ben, you had a kiosk at the Colorado Mills Mall. How much was the monthly rent there? $1,200? I thought it was a lot more. Okay. So for basically a place on the floor in the middle of the hallway is $1,200 a month, right? Yeah. And then that didn't include utilities or any of the costs of the kiosk itself. So if you were to actually have a storefront location, you're probably looking at spending at least $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month just to rent the spot. Plus you're adding in all the utilities and the furnishings and upkeep. And you're looking at spending considerable money for Colorado Mills. Now, I guess if you were to look at Cherry Creek or down by, what's that mall down by IKEA? Park Meadows, the one with the Tesla dealership and the Gucci stores, that's probably even more. So I realized that as much of it's a good idea, financially there's no way. There's no way that we have an extra, $5,000 a month to do such a thing. But I think that's a great idea, that maybe someday in the future when we're making more money, that's something that we could do. I think that would be really cool. But I like this quote because it really kind of, yes, we have a vision, but there's also certain practical ways to get there. So, we have the Vision 2020, right? We, have a certain vision, tribal messiahship, witnessing to the world, and but it's kind of left to us to decide how we're going to get there. And what's our personal vision here in our local community? Like, how do we want to create that? How do we want to get there? And I think that's something that we have to figure out on our own. And which is fine by me, because I don't really I like having the vision, but I don't like someone telling me how to make the vision happen. Because I feel like that's our excitement. That's kind of our role to be like, okay, well, how do we want to get there? Like, how can we, in our community, with our needs, get to accomplishing this in our own way? And then, of course, coming back to why. So we have a vision. We have a certain direction we want to go. We know that we have to get organized. We know that we have to manage finances. We have to manage manpower. And we have to create a plan. But then it always comes back to why. Why? Why? I know that for many of you, you joined the church, you found the truth, it changed your life, it saved your life. And that's all the why that you're going to ever need in your life. For me, it's been a little bit of a different process, and it's kind of been a process of discovery. Why? Why do I want to do this? Why do I want to invest into this community? Why do I want to invest into a vision to grow and develop the church? And it changes. I have to be honest with you. When we first came here, it was really about, we felt a calling, but it was also about developing a community. It was about thinking about the future and my children and what kind of church are they going to grow up in, and creating a good foundation for them, and also to build a better church than the one I grew up in, I guess kind of came down to. But over time, my thinking has changed. I'd like to think it's developed, evolved in a better way, and I think it has. But I see a movement where we have a lot of really good meaning people, and I really believe that all of you who come here, you come here because in your life you want to go to bed every night, or you want to have lived your life looking back on the day or looking back on your life with the feeling that my life made a difference to God. My life made a difference to true parents. The things that I did and the way that I contributed had meaning, and it made a difference. And that we want to be good children to our true parents, to our Heavenly Parent, that out of gratitude and out of desire to live life to the fullest, that we want to give something back. We want to give something back in a way that God can be proud of us. And so I think that always, now and forever, that will be an important part of the vision of this church and of the families in this church. My goal as pastor at this point, I want to find a way that every person in the church can feel like they're contributing in a meaningful way toward that vision, toward that goal. Maybe you don't feel like you can witness. Maybe you don't feel like you can do renovation work. Maybe you don't feel like you can give a lot of money. But my goal at this point is that to find a way that everybody can contribute in a meaningful way, so that as a community, as families, and as individuals, we can all feel like we're contributing to something that we can feel good about at the end of the day and at the end of our lives. And in the end, it kind of has to be that way. In the end, if I can't, as pastor, convey and provide a vision that each and every one of us can be inspired about, then I'm not doing a good job as a pastor. So, in other communities, people have talked to me and they're like, I feel like our church is going downhill. I feel like our church is falling apart. Tithing is down, participation is down, young people aren't interested. And that really makes me sad, because that's not what's happening in our church. In our church, tithing is going up. Young people participation is going up. And overall participation is going up. And I feel like it's partly my responsibility to share with other communities that that's happening. And which is partly the reason I'm excited about going to Las Vegas in April, to be able to share with other pastors and whatnot. But I think that we have to give ourselves credit. And I've said this before, and I'm probably going to say it many times again in the future, but I know that there are many things and initiatives that Adonia and I are pushing for, advocating for, that they're just different. They're different than things that we've done in the past. And I was cleaning out the office earlier this week, and I was reading these. I was looking through history, basically. I was looking through these old pictures. I found these pictures of the Denver church back in the 70s or something like that, and everyone's wearing bell bottoms, and everyone's got afros. It was really interesting. I'm going to show them to you one of these days. And I found this video of the inauguration of this. I don't know if inauguration is the right word, but when they first bought this building, and they had a big ceremony, and some of you remember that. And people were on stage singing. There was all these people never seen them before in my life, but singing all these songs I'd never heard before. It was just really interesting. I'm going to share those with you maybe next week or something like that. But next week James is giving the sermon. But no, it's amazing how much history there is in our community here, and how much has happened in our movement and here locally. And I was reading about I found this one folder, and it had a letter in there from Peggy. And Peggy had written the whole community on behalf of Reverend Park, saying that, I probably get the details wrong, but basically like, we made $200,000 this year, but we spent $300,000. So we have a $100,000 deficit, and please pray about giving a special donation or, tithing if you're not tithing. And, I was looking at it, and they had provided a whole balance sheet about like, we spent like, $30,000 on airplane tickets and like, I was kind of blown away because, man, it was way more money than what we're dealing with now. But it was a good reminder for me to see how, especially for many of you who've been in the movement for many years, how much stuff you've had to deal with to get to where we are now. And some good things, but I think also many challenging things too. And I know that many things have been challenging up until now, and we've done things in a certain way up until now, but I'm really grateful for your heartfelt appreciation of us and your heartfelt trust, even sometimes I think hesitant trust, to allow us to move forward in a direction in this community right now that, I have this great idea for the Welcome Center and the cafe and the emails and all that stuff. It's a good idea. I don't know. Maybe it won't work out. Maybe it'll be an idea that I'm inspired about it. I think it'll be great. But there's no guarantees in anything, so maybe it won't work out. But we'll try different things until we're successful. Okay? We'll try different things until we're successful. If what we're doing now and witnessing isn't working, then we'll send people to LA so they can learn how to do it, what they're doing over there. If that doesn't work, we'll do something different. I think the important thing is that we just don't give up. We like the song, we never give up, never give in. The important thing is that we just don't give up. There are people who are looking for what we have. I believe that more now than I ever did before. Before I was kind of like, well, I think there's people out there who are looking for what we have. But as I meet more and more people, like James who's coming, I told you before, right? He was looking for truth. He spent sometimes 12 hours, one sitting, meditating, eating only rice and drinking only water, because he was looking for spiritual truth. And so anyway, to wind down, we have our vision. We have our true parents. We have the direction that we're going in general. But here locally, we need to figure out how we're going to do it, and we need to figure out how we're going to do it in such a way that we all feel inspired about it, that we all feel like I can help out with that, even if it's cooking a barbecue and cleaning a grill, or if it's vacuuming a floor, or whatever it is. Everything has meaning and value, and we're all working together, and we all feel inspired about it. That's what our true parents had. In the years past. Even if you were an electrician and you were working on the Manhattan Center, you felt like you were contributing to God's providence. And anyway, I want to create something like that in our community. I don't know how we're going to get there exactly, but I know that we're going in that direction already. And if we just keep going and keep investing and keep trying new things, keep building new bridges, then we're going to get there. So thank you very much.